Well, what was not on my bingo card was something that's happened in the last 24 hours or so, which is the phenomenon of Gen Z people reading the insane scribblings of Osama bin Laden and going, hey, he brings up a lot of good points. I really didn't think that, these people would be reading the protocols of the elders of dipshittery and thinking, oh, well, hey, this guy's really put the pieces together. This guy's really got a clue. I mean, it's insane to me. The more that it's like a race between stupidity and moral bankruptcy among some of our young people. And I think it's going to be a tie in which we all lose.
Hey, Culminators, thank you for joining us once again. We are privileged, honored, and a little bit excited to be joined today by certainly one of my best friends, Kurt Schlichter. And we're hoping, we did a little pre-recording, banter. We're hoping we can find stuff to talk about. Now that history has been over for as long as it has, maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to come up with something. Kurt, how are you? Good to see you.
Well, Ron, it's nice to see you when you're not acting in your capacity as my attorney.
Well, that's usually good news, especially
that's always good news.
A litigator.
It's never good when you when you need to talk to somebody going, this is a legal thing. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm pretty good, actually. Thank you. I really am. I'm loving life, and I'm feeling good. I lost a whole bunch of weight. I lost 40 pounds.
Wow! Wow!
And
did you do that on purpose? Did you do that for any special reason?
Because I was fat as a horse. That would be the reason. Okay, and I've been working out.
Nice.
Working out. So.
Yeah, I work out every 3 times a week. I have a guy also named Kirk. He shouts slogans at me, like "Up to burn." I don't know what any of that means, but I am sturdy.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit sturdier and a little bit leaner, and boy, the energy, it really is true. I'm sure everyone's really enjoying listening to these 60-year-old men talk about how good it is, but. You know what? Like the best thing after finishing, like the last thing I do is floor exercises, and when I'm done, I just get up from the floor. I just get up from the floor.
Yeah,
like when I was a kid.
Yeah, my mom and dad passed away, and they had a lot of ailments, and they were very frail at the end. And I don't want to be that guy.
That's right.
I mean, it wasn't because they were lazy or anything. They had other things going on. But, and frankly, with the coming apocalypse, I want to be ready. Because you never know what's going to happen.
That's right. You can't rely just on your firepower. You got to be prepared to squat behind things, and climb down and up things.
Carry ammo.
But perhaps we're getting ahead of ourselves. I want to throw something up on the screen as a trigger. This is Kurt Schlichter's most recent book. I mean, I assume it is. You do tend to come out with books very fast.
Nonfiction.
Yeah, I don't read your fiction books. If it didn't happen, I'm not interested in it unless it happened to James Bond or what's his name? Smiley.
George Smiley.
Smiley.
Sadly, my fiction is happening now. But that's
all right. Well, but this is the book that everyone in my family is reading. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, they love it. The kids, and I say the kids, these are 24-year-old large people. But it's like a great how to get you. So this was your Whitepilled book from earlier this year. We're having this discussion in mid-November of 2023. Now, what do you think?
I'm an optimistic guy. I still think that we're going to come out of this. I think our strengths outweigh our weaknesses, but let's not imagine that good things are just going to spontaneously happen because we are good people or nice people. We're going to have to fight for civilization, and the fight for civilization is on.
In fact, being good people and nice people may actually be a bug, not a feature, in
Yes.
some or perhaps many contexts. Of all the things that we have seen happen in the last couple of months, let's just narrow it, okay? What would you say would be one that would make you rewrite part of We'll Be Back or add something to We'll Be Back? Something that you didn't really think was nearly as bad as it is.
Well, what was not on my bingo card was something that's happened in the last 24 hours or so, which is the phenomenon of Gen Z people reading the insane scribblings of Osama bin Laden and going, hey, he brings up a lot of good points. You know, I don't, I really didn't have, I really didn't think that, you know, these people would be reading the protocols of the elders of dipshittery and thinking, oh, well, you know, hey, this guy's really put the pieces together. This guy's really got a clue. I mean, it's insane to me. The more that it's like a race between stupidity and moral bankruptcy among some of our young people. And I think it's going to be a tie in which we all lose. So I did not, you know, I didn't see that part coming. I didn't see, I knew the anti-Jewish hatred on college campuses and in society was out there, but I thought it was more kind of theoretical. I knew there was some on the right who kind of hinted at it, but not, but you know, if you're walking around and somebody starts, you know, going, you know, it's the cause of all my personal failings, the Jews, this person would be laughed out of polite company. It'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you? And yet there are people essentially saying that who have some sort of following. And that is not a cause for hope, except in the sense that by understanding your actual situation, you can then begin to fight back. And people are fighting back. And that's good. But remember, the Jewish people are the canary in the coal mine for civilization. Okay? Every single group that has picked on the Jewish people through history is going to move on to the next group. So don't pretend, well, you know, I'm a Methodist, I'm cool. No, they're just going to kill me next. So
but
even if you don't want to do it because it's right, you
right,
better stick up for them because it's your fight.
That is an extremely that's right. I mean, ultimately, it's and halfway in between, or actually maybe not halfway. People who hate Jews hate America.
Yes.
Mostly,
no, absolutely.
Inevitably.
Well, look, America, you know, America traces its roots directly back to the Old Testament. I mean, you can't have Christianity without Judaism. You can't have America without Judaism.
Oh, are you kidding? I've been told today on Twitter that
you've been told on Twitter?
Yeah, no, but by, of course, anonymous accounts.
Yeah, flaming dipshit 69.
Right. That there was no Bible before Jesus, and
well, see, you know, I work my way through the Bible. I just read the whole thing, Old Testament, New Testament. There is, in fact, an Old Testament. I was reading about Ahab and Jehoshaphat just the other day.
You know, it's pretty big, by the way, the Old Testament, and
it's long.
It can be quite. Luckily, you're an infantryman, so that doesn't intimidate you. But
it's, you know, it can be. You get to Lamentations, and it's a slog. But no, I mean, what the hell is? See, it's so counterfactual and so ignorant and stupid that I have to assume that these guys have something else going on in their heads.
Or nothing.
Or nothing. But I mean, you have to be really stupid. I mean, you have to like be actively stupid to convince yourself there's no Bible but the New Testament. I mean, it's so bizarre. You have to
and also you can't have read the New Testament. You can't because it's all this extensive conversation involving what are our obligations to God? Well, where do we look to that? And what is it that we're proposing to? What's the novelty here? What are we? What is the good spiel?
You know, You know, I wonder if these guys remember, you know, what religion Jesus was. You know, what people did he come from?
Well, what? So
Okay,
another
it
person.
wasn't, you know, it wasn't the Maoris.
Someone told me today that it wasn't. There was no Talmudic Judaism. Really? Really? Where did
I don't
Rabbi
even know what
Saul the
that is.
what? No, where did you ever hear of the Pharisees? Where did Paul, formerly known as Saul, where did he study? Crazy
And
stuff.
what did he study?
And what did he study? He studied
Well,
oh, but
the thing is, I mean, you know, I find myself, Christianity is a big uh, uh, spread. There are Catholics are different from Protestants. You've got various sects. Protestants are different from others. I grew up as a Methodist. I'm not sure we even have Jesus. Um, I mean, they just. I mean, there are so many different, and and in a way that's beautiful because you find your own path within it. So you go to a small town, and there's 10 different churches because everybody's got, well, you know, I believe in transubstantiation, or I don't, or I just don't like the other minister. I'm going to start my own up, and
oh
that's.
well, we
But
do that. We do that also. We're rather
but
famously.
but the thing is, I resent these jerks making me explain. I'm not like that dumb shit. Okay, that is not it. You know, you start, and then of course you get the leftists going, well, the only reason Christians like Jews is because they have this apocalyptic. No, dude, I was a Methodist. We stopped reading about Luke. Okay, maybe we get to Romans. All right,
But
we don't
also,
get to the.
but also,
I've never had a sermon on the Revelations. I don't think. I mean,
well,
maybe I wasn't paying attention.
yeah,
That's possible.
yeah.
I was a Methodist.
It's goofy, but you talk about people who are mostly they're nothing, right? Dipshit 69,
Yes.
and then there are people who are doing pretty well,
Yes.
doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit scary. And what's also a little scary, I mean, you have some very well-known cases,
Yes.
and then you have some people that we both know who are really seem to be playing it very close to the line. And Ron, when you say that I must use the word genocide in a way that comports with its meaning in the English language, you're making a semantic language. You're making a semantic argument. Well, when you use the word genocide in a way that doesn't comport with the meaning in the English language, you're doing a lot worse than making a semantic argument. You're lying.
Yes. Yes, they are. And
words matter. That's why
words
you
do
chose that
matter.
word.
I don't understand this edgelord thing where some of them seem like on the verge of wanting to go full Nick Fuentes.
Nick
And you
Fuentes,
never
yes,
want to go full Nick Fuentes.
that pure-blooded American. I never quite understood. Like, I'm not really, never really looked into it. How does a guy named Nick Fuentes become a white supremacist?
Well, look, in America, you can be whatever you want to be, which frankly is part of this because I think some people see a personal advantage for their brand as the guy who's edgy enough, you know, to stick it to the Jewish people because no one's ever done that before.
Right. What if you work for one? What? Let's talk about the 500-pound gorilla in the room right now with us, the lovely and talented Miss Candace.
What the hell is wrong with this one? Well, first of all, full disclosure, I have been friends with Ben Shapiro, who is her node antagonist, for 15 years. When he, me, and a gentleman named Larry O'Connor were doing a internet radio show for about 50 people. As we're all associated with Breitbart, the Hour of Hate. And it was very funny. And I hear Ben has gone on to greater things. He's also had a terrific lawyer, me. So I am firmly in the Ben camp, as is Larry. Candace, I have met once. I am distinctly unimpressed with her. I find her cynical. I find her superficial, and I'm trying to, and these are her best qualities. I don't trust her. I don't think she's smart. I think she is, it's a moral and mental weakness to fall back on anti-Semitism, and I think that's what she's doing.
It is, I mean, look, she doesn't actually work for Ben as such because
No, they're the same company.
yeah, I mean, he's CEO emeritus or something like that. I mean,
yeah, he doesn't do it day to day.
But the point is, a decision was made by someone else in the company whom we know, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. It would bring a little bit of dimension, someone who wasn't Jewish and wasn't Catholic, or a Catholic who used to be Jewish, and someone who wasn't white. I mean, diversity sells, and being a strong Black conservative is a thing, and she's always had a following. I've never been part of it. Just never liked. There was kind of a dark energy there that I never really.
I agree. I've always, now she started off as a leftist, and I think we will eventually, a young leftist, and then she became a conservative. And of course, anybody who's a convert always seems to be 100 times more intense. Look, I've been a conservative for 40 years, Ron. I don't have to get upset about it. I'm approaching 60, man. I'm chill. But she's got a convert zeal, and if she becomes disappointed in her new secular faith, conservatism, because a lot of these guys use their politics to fill in what should be filled in with actual faith, I can see her going the other way just as intensely, or back the other way.
Well, I mean, there is this really, really weird coalescing of or convergence of gropers, white nationalist creeps.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's get one thing straight. These people don't give a rat's ass about Palestinians. I mean, please.
No.
Do you think they care any more about Palestinians than the rest of the Arab world does, which is...
Literally no one cares about the Palestinians, except the Israelis who are taking casualties to not kill as many of them, is frankly American forces. What, you think American forces would treat them with kid gloves, the Israelis are? You think I wouldn't be on the radio going, I'm taking fire from that building. I want it flat. Do it now. Click. Oh, and I get a medal for it. That's how we win wars. The Palestinians sure don't care about the Palestinians, and I'm personally confused about why I'm somehow morally obligated to care more about them than they do about themselves.
Wait a minute, though. You talked about your moral caringness. Don't you know that you're not allowed to have an opinion on any conflict unless you're prepared to put on a uniform and go fight on the side that you believe has...
Well, I am. And I have invited these guys to begin the process of having the Pentagon bring me to active duty, cut me orders, provide me with the equipment, and send me over there. I am absolutely ready to do that in a heartbeat. And that's not a joke. I actively would. But I don't think America should be in this fight in any substantial way, not because we don't have a moral justification for it. We do. They killed Americans, and they're holding Americans, but because I think our currently incompetent military leadership would only get in the way and cause problems.
Yeah, and also it's fraud as hell. It's fraud as hell, and Israel doesn't really need it. Okay, so is it fair to say that there's a strike group, a carrier strike group or two there?
That is a
to Iran.
That's a useful way to keep Hezbollah from firing missiles.
Hezbollah, which is Iran, and how did Iran get as powerful as they? Who funded Iran, and who armed Iran?
Yes, I know.
The United States of America. So that
I would not be playing games with these jerks. My view is, if you cross me, You are going to use my name to scare your children down for the next 10 generations. The entire, they have fired on America. Well, they killed Americans on October 7th. So that would cost them their Navy. Your Navy's gone. Every surface ship is gone. Every submarine is sunk. Then you fired on us in Syria. Great. There go your refineries. What do you want destroyed next? You know,
are you a neoconservative?
Absolutely not. And
but I
know what a
understand that
neoconservative is. I am a Jacksonian. A Jacksonian is not a pacifist. A Jacksonian believes in defending your country and defending your people. He does not look for fights, but when he gets in one, he wins it hard and fast. Not because he loves war, but because he wants it over. You know, this little drip and drab crap. You win by crushing the enemy. We knew that in Operation Desert Storm, which I wrote about in the beginning of We'll Be Back, because I happened to be at 7th Corps Main headquarters, where we destroyed the Republican Guard in less than 100 hours. A military achievement on par with what Hannibal or Julius Caesar did. It's just incredible. And we didn't play. We didn't screw around. There's none of this. Let's escalate slowly by. It was the enemy's there. We're going to cut it off and we're going to kill it. And we killed them until they surrendered. And then we took prisoners. I remember driving by the prisoner holding pen at Kaisuma Airfield, and just thousands of these guys had just given up, and we took them prisoners. I remember we would send helicopters to bring in wounded enemy prisoners, you know, with our crews, millions of dollars. But we didn't screw around. We didn't act like barbarians, but we didn't screw around. We're in a fight. We're going to kill you until you stop. And when you stop, then we're going to treat you, with compassion and respect.
What do you think about this? What's going on in social media? I mean, you thank God spending a lot less time on Twitter than you used to. You obviously becoming a respectable member of society, but.
And I get paid for it now.
Like, what's the gig that you're referring to that you're getting paid for?
Twitter.
Oh, you're getting paid for the Twitter.
I am monetized.
Yeah, no, yeah. I
get like a dinner every couple of months.
I got $40 last week. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, right.
Hey, income streams, baby.
Right. Multiple funnels. Do you think it's made it worse? Do you think it's made the whole, this ability of people to express themselves in the most vicious terms possible with really no accountability? I mean, I don't look, everyone made fun of Nikki Haley, rightfully, for saying, you can't have, saying something that Donald Trump also said in 2013, that you shouldn't be allowed to get on Twitter unless you say who you really are. There's a point to be made there, though, right? I mean, there's something about that lack of it. I mean, you're a guy who strapped it on, went there, and, put your money where your mouth is. And, if I have to stare somebody down who starts shouting at me across the street with the clever epithet, Jew, really, you figured?
Yes,
you figured that.
Hi.
All right, fine. That's real. That's meat space, and you're a man. You're a man, and that's men have to deal with things. But we've really gone into, I think, a different era of human relations where you can practically read people's minds because they don't close them. They just vomit out whatever they're thinking, mostly because they're not accountable. I mean, is there any way?
Well, there's no social accountability for it, and that is the price you pay for having a venue which allows people to have worthwhile expression. There are people who are going to hide behind, dipshit 69, and he's going to share things he wouldn't share in public because at some level he knows everyone's going to go, shut up, you moron. How much play they actually get is another question. Some have a large following, but that's very rare.
Yeah, that's right.
most of them are just idiots. The other thing is anonymity is critically important because both you and I have dealt with the issue of people being retaliated against for speech. And I'm very much against the proposed new rule of we want to ruin your life and make it so you can't operate in society because of something you said. Now they have changed that rule, and I don't like the new rule, but it needs to be applied to them so that perhaps they will come and change it back. But there is a need for anonymity. I mean, what do we ban the Federalist Papers? Hey, Publius, you can't have any value about what you say. Look, we have to be adults about how we consume social media because there's always idiots out there. And before it was the idiot walking around with a sign in the park. And now it's the idiot
cranking out his manifesto on a mimeograph machine.
Exactly, and now it's the guy with the anime avatar talking about how you're a transphobe because you like Israel. And we've got to be sophisticated consumers just to go, okay, this guy's an idiot. He's not saying anything of value. I'm not going to listen to him. And frankly, most idiots, they flow like water off a duck's back.
Right. That's right. They lead lives of quiet desperation and will end their lives in a state of of noisy, perhaps, desperation, but it's still
noisy mediocrity.
That's what I mean. That's the thing, is you're virtually never talking about people with any attainments of their own, and if
people who have attainments of their own generally don't embrace politics of resentment. They may embrace politics I don't like, but they're usually not. This particular group of people is responsible for all my problems. It's some exceptions,
unless they're selling that to others.
Yes. Yeah. And it does sell because there are people out there who will buy. But the thing is, we've also have a niche society now. You and I are old enough to remember Carson. Remember Johnny Carson? And you watch Johnny, and then the next day you go to work or school, and everyone's talking about how Johnny was funny. 40 million people a night watch this guy. Everybody watches him. Today there's 20 late night hosts. They're all making as much as Carson, and they've all got 1/10 of his audience. And you can be very successful with a niche. If 2% of Americans thought you were great, you would have 6 million fans. More than that. Hey, I know math, but I'm not Stephen Hawking. But you can be very successful catering to a narrow band of freaking morons. And morons.
So that's your Nick Fuentes. That's your Nick Fuentes crowd.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So, have you ever met? I mean, I did meet Nick Fuentes. He tried to say hi to me at CPAC, and I told him if he didn't get away from me, I was going to slug him.
I spoke to him once.
Yeah, but in your normal life, do you meet a lot of people who are like Nick Fuentes? I don't. I mean, I don't meet. I don't. I'm trying to remember the last time I heard someone use, for instance, a negative epithet about Black people
in person,
who wasn't quoting rap lyrics.
Right.
He just like, you know who I hate? It doesn't happen, at least not in the circles I go in, and I think my circles are pretty broad. I mean, I was in the Army. You saw a wide range of people.
That's true.
I just didn't see. I didn't say it didn't exist, but it wasn't something you do in polite society. You would be.
Well, is there such a thing as polite society?
What's wrong with you?
Is there such a thing as polite society anymore? I mean,
well, I apparently not. I don't think it's bad that we have some standards where if you indulge in dumb prejudices, people look down on you because you're dumb, which is what dumb and immoral, which is what people who indulge in dumb prejudices are. They're just, I mean, it's morally questionable. Well, not morally questionable, morally bad, and it's stupid. And you're just a low-class person. Right? You're just crash.
So the problem, Kurt, with you is that you're friends with Ben Shapiro, who works for the CIA and has dual citizenship. You're like, these idiots think that every Jewish person has dual citizenship. No. If I
What's
want
wrong
to
with dual
apply,
citizenship?
well, I can see, like, it's a very useful polemical tool to accuse someone of dual
Yeah.
citizenship when you want to say that they're disloyal, that they have, that they're Israel firsters, not America firsters. It's asinine. I mean, I think we're preaching to the choir here, but I think of all the things that have, I mean, to a large extent, creeps have continued being creeps, and they've been given sort of a longer leash to creep.
Yes.
But I do think that the most distressing thing has been what's going on both on campus and among the leadership. In other words, the universities themselves. First of all, they become very big on they went from trigger alerts and safe spaces to First Amendment absolutists very quickly, and it has become really a thing to. Have you seen these videos of who's doing what on these campuses?
Oh yeah.
These people aren't even Americans.
No, a lot of them are foreigners. They need to go home. One of the problems is that many of the people who took over the institutions, they didn't build them, they didn't create them, they just inherited them. We are run by cultural trust fund babies. You go to Harvard, you get your degree, suddenly you have a credential, and now you're allowed into this crew, and you can take over the institution. But they don't have any sense that the institution should perform its function and be protected so it can perform its function. Rather, the institution itself becomes a vehicle for an outside political agenda. So what you get is people who, and further, part of that agenda is the delegitimization of power in the sense of preserving the institutions to do their job. So they're afraid to say, dude, you saw a guy walking through Harvard and he was holding an Israeli flag, and you went and you pushed him on his butt, and I'm going to expel you because we don't use violence here at Harvard. And they're afraid to do that. But if they did that, you would have a lot less people pushing each other onto their butts. You would have more people debating and arguing. And if you want to come out and argue for Hamas, you can do that. I'm going to think you're a scumbag, but you can do that. But you lay a finger on me, we're going to have a problem, and it's going to be your problem because I'm 230 pounds and I will knock the crap out of you. But that's not how we want to have our institution. An institution that is based on who could beat shit out of each other more effectively is not really an educational institution. It is a octagon.
Well, there has been an extraordinary, and it really kicked in. I mean, I think it began in the 60s, but it really kicked into high gear with the Trump inauguration riots, and then the BLM, where political violence has been absolutely green-lighted unless for the left.
Yes.
And by the left. Because I think that so much of this bad citizenship comes down to toleration of violence. That riot that they had outside the White House, one arrest.
Yeah, and then same with the DNC.
Yeah, one arrest.
Yeah, I believe, again, in everything, I believe in the use of massive force to address issues. When you say no, you've got to enforce the no. And then you don't have to enforce it anymore. Okay, I haven't been in a fist fight in about 25 years. I think in some part because, someone screws with me, we're going to have a problem. So I don't go looking I don't like to fight, but you've got to be able to do the hard things to ensure that people know what the rules are. You've got to enforce the freaking rules. And the schools won't do it, so they have chaos. The cities won't do it, so they have chaos. You have one set of rules, you enforce it equally for everyone, and we know the rules can be enforced because we saw what happened with J6 people, who I believe should all be pardoned because we can only have one set of laws. And since they have decided not to apply it to this group, we can't apply it to that group. But we've also seen it with cities where it's people using self-defense to get prosecuted, or protecting other people. We see it in LA. They allowed a giant flammable hobo encampment to erupt under the interstate, or the 10, as we say it in LA, Interstate 10. And that was unlawful. And everybody saw it and everybody knew it. And no one enforced the rules.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, in San Francisco, they know how to clean up a city.
They sure did. When they want to do something, they can. Rudy Giuliani, he cleaned up Taxi Driver New York. Okay?
Yes.
The first time I went to New York, it was beautiful. I could walk around. It was like 2011, the first time I was actually in the city.
New York was
it
was a golden age.
It was a golden age. It was beautiful.
It was a golden age, and I was working in the city in those days. It was 15 years of this is what a great capital, world capital can be like.
Look, I'm a guy who, I went into some ugly places when I was in overseas. Never did anything interesting, but we had to watch ourselves. We were armed. I'm always kind of head on a swivel, and I was safe in New York. I could bring my wife. I brought my kids there. I didn't have to worry. I knew it was okay.
I'm going back to New York
in not too distant future, and in fact, we probably got to talk about maybe grabbing lunch if we can. Because my God, that restaurant you took us to,
that was pretty good, wasn't it? The first time I ever
so good.
Really
it was. It was fantastic. That was a wonderful day, but it's not like that, and that's choice. When I wrote about it at Town Hall, chaos is a choice. They're choosing it, and why? I've got another idea. Let's choose to be civilized, but to be civilized, you got to put down the barbarians, and that includes criminals. You've got to put them down.
What is it that I just saw a poll? Hoso tweeted it. I think he enjoyed it a little bit too much. 74% of American Jews would vote for Biden. Now, first of all, I don't know how good that poll is. Second of all, I don't know who they really polled, how they identified who's a Jew. You can't go by last names. The ones with the last names are unless they're over 40 are the ones who are not Jewish.
So someone gets a call. Hi, are you a Jew? And they're like, why, yes.
Well, a lady came up to me in the airport. And I was traveling a lot the last few weeks. And of course, all right, I'm pretty conspicuously Jewish looking. And very, very Caucasoid woman comes up to me and says, excuse me, sir. God bless you. Like she wanted to be empathetic and to send.
I feel the same way because because you guys need to get some solidarity.
But my point is, if I weren't wearing my yarmulke, I would really look pretty much every bit as Jewish. But it would really be rude of her to say, "You look like you could use. You look like God's people." But here's the thing, Kurt. There's a gigantic cultural political problem. And the Jews are the liberal Jews are a gigantic part of it. But they simply are the leading edge in many respects of all the Karens and all the male Karens, all these white liberals who. What is it? What is it that makes them think that they must punish themselves and destroy their own civilization? Do they think it's not going to affect them, or do they think that they? I mean,
a lot of them have grown up in a world protected by very rough people.
Right. This is the trust fund point again.
Well,
right?
The cultural trust fund thing. The United States is an anomaly. Okay, I've been to I was in Saudi Arabia. I was in Ukraine. I was in Kosovo. I got to tell you, when you walk around America, except in certain areas, you can rely kind of on the rule of law generally in your life. If you're too political, lately, if you're too political, maybe not. But generally you can. Generally you're going to be safe. Generally you're going to be prosperous. Generally you can speak freely, much more than the exception. And frankly, we go nuts over things that they do in Britain every day. Okay, and accept there, we don't accept it. That becomes a thing. And this was all built by people who were very, very tough. And they were very tough in building this, and these people do not appreciate that, and they somehow think this is the natural state of man. And it is not. This is an exception. It's a wonderful exception. The problem with the exception is people grow up thinking, oh, well, that's the rule. I don't have to do any, I don't have to get my hands dirty to keep this going.
And California,
you have to.
This is the story of California, right?
Yes.
I mean, this was talk about a golden age. This was generations of golden age. The entire 20th century, California. I mean, just what?
Ron, I got here in '72 as like a 6-year-old. Sunshine, palm trees. I was in Northern California. It was near San Francisco, but it was just such a great. I mean, I never doubted that I could do exactly what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be a writer. I got a bunch of best-selling books up there. I wanted to be in the Army. I got to be in the Army. I got to be a stand-up comic. It never occurred to me I was not going to be able to do what I wanted to do. And I see kids today, and they come out thinking, I can't do any of this. And that's not what California is about. California is about opportunity and sunshine and the ability to be whoever you want to be and go as far as you can. And they have turned it into this nightmare where people are depressed and sad, and it's heartbreaking. Now, we can change it back. We've got to change it back. I mean, God, my gosh, you know the same thing. You get young lawyers come and join the firm, and they got a $200,000 student loan millstone around their neck. I would start your life with 200 grand.
Why on earth do you have to charge $75,000 in tuition for a law school? Law school, you don't need a single beaker, a single Bunsen burner, a single collider. Why did they charge it? Because they can. Why can they? Because they're charging it with our money.
Yes, we have subsidized our own failure.
You still think we'll be back?
I can't think we won't, because then, I could just retire and go someplace and just sit on my, and grill every day, drink wine, way too much wine,
you
be
have
with
children.
my thoughts.
You have future generations to.
Yeah, I mean, look, I got the kids. I could be like some of these parents and not care what happens to them. I'm not going to go down that route. But I care about this country. I took an oath to this country, right? I'm a United States Army officer. My commission still exists, even if it's in retired status. I believe in it. I've seen the alternative overseas. And I'm not going to sit back, and I'm not going to let this. I will do whatever small part I can do to bring this country back to what it should be. And when I leave, it'd be easy to say, well, I'm going to be dead before all this stuff really ends, which is probably true. But I would like it to be on an upslow swing when I go, rather than just say, well, I squandered my cultural inheritance along with the rest of the boomers, because I was born the last week of the baby. I made it by 7 days.
I tell you the truth. I have trouble with that. Us 60s babies, they pretty much pissed everything away by the time we came. We were of age. I hate being called a boomer.
I do too.
I know I look like one, but it's not.
Look.
I'm in the same generation as Bill Clinton. No freaking way.
Yikes. I know it's bad. I'm much more Gen X in attitude and outlook. The last great generation. But look, I think that I got to work with a lot of young people in the military. It's been about 10 years since I was in, but I don't think that the young people are necessarily completely broken. I think they still have the possibility of greatness in them, and I think they want to be great. I'm just not sure they know how. And I'm not sure we're setting them up to do it. And again, I mean, I'm not, I'm not the king of America, not yet anyway. So I can't just decree things, but I think all of us can do what we can to get back to a place where America is about possibilities and about freedom and about potential, rather than about relitigating ancient hatreds, dividing things up by some sort of immutable characteristic spoil system.
USS Liberty.
Jesus Christ.
Really?
Really? Do these guys, and it's like, do you think I don't know 500 times more about what happened in the Liberty incident than you dumbasses do? Newsflash, when people are flying around shooting each other, sometimes they make freaking bad mistakes.
And sometimes they they might even err on the side of making those kinds of mistakes because it's a war.
Well, you want to ask, what was so why would the Israelis not want an American spy ship monitoring electronic communications during the 6-Day War? What were they hiding? What's this thing that they were hiding that they wanted to keep from the Americans?
And people think that it's like that the Israel-US relationship in 1967 was like it is, let's say, during the Trump years, or even now. It wasn't. It wasn't.
No,
not even
very
close.
Different. They weren't even, in many cases, they weren't even using American equipment at the time. They were using a lot of British equipment and captured Russian equipment.
I hope we can salvage 30 minutes of original discussion from that, because we sound like just a couple of get off my lawn guys on this, but this is what we're living. This is what we're living.
Look, it's a fight we got to have. Look, the thing is, you mentioned, what are you going to do now that history's over? Of course, history will never be over. History is always a struggle between civilization and barbarism. And I'm going to be on the side of civilization, and the next generation is going to have its own fight. I just don't want them to inherit my fight unfought. There's no place where that people perfect themselves and get rid of all human emotions, greed, lust for power, all that sort of stuff. This fight is always going to go on in some form. I would just rather it be a smaller scale fight, like it was in the 70s and 80s. Although the 80s could have gotten pretty big, but we won that one.
Nice work, Kurt.
Yep.
We will culminate our discussion for today. Thank you for joining us. Let's talk offline about getting that lunch. Tell me when you're coming to town. Thanks again,
for having me.
See ya.